Well, we're going to design a system that's got more of a focus on what people need rather than what the government decides that they need. And so we're going to simplify the forms for disability benefits and have a better system. One of the problems is that the money that Scotland's getting to do that is being cut by about a fifth. So £1 in every £5 has been taken away by Westminster. So we've got less money for these disability benefits. But what we've managed to do in the past, people have been happier with than what's happened at Westminster. We don't have control of a benefit called Employment and Support Allowance. That's staying at Westminster, and a lot of disabled people rely on Employment and Support Allowance. So that's a big worry. But we're going to keep pressing them to give it to us in Scotland so that we can make it better.
Well, I support the principles that lie behind welfare reform. It's one of my priorities to make sure that the budget that's spent on welfare goes to the people who need it most or can benefit most from it, and that those who are on the margins are guided back into employment so that they can gain more independence and have more control over their own lives. What's very important to me, however, is to make sure that nobody misses out in that process. And even over the last couple of days, we've been discussing issues about tax credits. And the Conservatives here in Scotland have been very influential in ensuring that the process of removing tax credits has been halted until such time as we can make sure that there are other things in their place before the tax credits are taken away. So changes in welfare are vital, but I see it as my job and the job of the Scottish Conservatives to make sure that these changes don't hurt people in the process.
Well, the changes need to be implemented sensitively. There's big problems with sometimes when people have to wait a long time to get an assessment. For instance, with the personal independent payment, people have to wait a long time before they get the assessment, and then when the assessment is done, it doesn't really reflect all their needs. So therefore, I think it's making sure we have a sensitive system that acts promptly, and it gives you the right to appeal if you don't think the answer is right. So having a proper sensitive process. We also need to make sure that the benefits increase in line with the cost of living, which often they don't do. And when the Conservatives and ourselves were in power together, we held them back from cutting back benefits as much as they would like. So those are the things that Liberal Democrats would do in terms of the welfare system.
Oh, I think the welfare reform changes have been absolutely devastating. I think probably we all know somebody, whether it's in our own families or communities, who's been impacted. Someone who perhaps had access to transport or a mobility allowance or a disability living allowance. Suddenly somebody decides that they no longer comply, with the requirements for that, and they're having funding taken away. They're having the things that might make it possible for them to get to work every day removed. So I think we need to challenge this politically. You've seen people, marching on the streets. My own mum got involved in a political march for the first time in her life because people feel really strongly about what's happening. So I think we all have to work together. We have to highlight real life cases. When constituents contact me, I think we have to make sure that the human face is spoken about. People understand the stories, that it's not all about statistics, this is about people. We have to challenge. And I think we have to emphasise too that this austerity, these cuts, are a choice by this government. I mean, there was plenty of money to bail out the bankers. Nothing's happened to the people that caused the financial crisis, but it is the poorest people and those who are most vulnerable who are suffering. So I think we have to work together to challenge it with as loud a voice as we can.
Well, I think this is an exciting time in Scottish politics. Whatever your view is on independence or not, I think this is a really exciting time because we're going to have powers devolved to the Parliament that we will then control over taxation and over welfare. So if there are things we want to do differently, this is our opportunity to do it. Whether we want to reshape the approach so it is fairer and kinder to people, actually helps support them rather than punishes them, whether we want to remove some of the sanctions that are in place, which I find unacceptable. The majority or a substantial number of people with learning disability are the ones who are sanctioned. I just think that's plain wrong. So we need to get better at providing a fairer system, but one that actually means that people have an adequate safety net. Let me give you one example of an area we already have responsibility for now, and that's the Scottish Welfare Fund. I'm a great believer that if you have to apply to the Welfare Fund, you should be given money, not goods. You know, it's pointless giving somebody, you know, a fridge or a settee or whatever. Let them make the choice. This is all about choice. So I would much rather see the Scottish Welfare Fund about giving money to people who need it so that they can exercise choice and have dignity rather than having goods supplied to them.